Hello everyone, my name is Elizabeth, and for this video assignment I will be discussing informed consent in relation to the ACA Code of Ethics and Ohio, my state board's regulations, to an actual informed consent form example from an agency that I found online. The agency that I chose is Pathways Counseling Center, and I think it's really important to begin with the ACA Code of Ethics cornerstone definition of what informed consent is. In section A.2.A, it says that clients have the freedom to choose whether to enter into or remain in a counseling relationship and need adequate information about the counseling process and the counselor. Likewise, Ohio law says something very similar to the effect of counselors shall inform clients/consumers of services the extent and nature of services available to them, as well as the limits, rights, opportunities, and obligations associated with services to be provided, which might affect the clients/consumers of service decisions to enter into or continue the relationship. Both of those were some of the very first and most fundamental aspects that I found involving informed consent. So then basically I am specifically looking for if the example of the informed consent form that I found clearly spells out that adequate information. What I found on their form was a fairly thorough 2-page informed consent section. On the form, it included the nature of counseling, in which they did explain what counseling is, what's going to go on in a counseling session, and how it may be beneficial. The agency also listed the benefits and risks of counseling. They were forthright with the fact that they are not a 24-hour facility, and they listed some emergency places to contact in that situation. They had several paragraphs on confidentiality and in what situations that can be breached. And finally, they had a whole section on their office policies, including cancellations, fees, billing information, and insurance. Many of those things I just listed are under the Code of Ethics section 2 or A.2.B as well. As far as my reaction to the informed consent form at Pathways Counseling, one of the things that I noticed while I was browsing and searching other informed consent forms from different agencies was that Pathways Counseling had a few small sentences on referrals in which they stated that if they didn't have the appropriate knowledge, that they would set up the client with someone that has the specialized training. And I thought that was a really good thing to have on the informed consent form, because it addresses that difficult issue of counselors and clients being able to work together on particular presenting issues. And if not, the client will still be taken care of. I didn't see that on other forms that I had looked at. I also really liked the way that Pathways Counseling just had very direct, easy to understand, and comprehensible collection of information that covered a lot of the appropriate areas. Ohio law does require that the client is able to understand the consent document, and that if not, a qualified interpreter or translator is necessary. Or if it's due to a mental capacity or condition, a parent, guardian, or court-appointed representative will need to be there. In my research then, Carlisle and Newlicht 2010 also support understandability and say that information must be provided in language that an individual can understand. And I took that to mean both in a literal way, but also in layman's terms as well. They also say that withholding professional disclosure robs the client of the right to be fully informed and able to make a competent decision regarding their participation. So that is definitely not a good way to set up a trusting counseling relationship that's needed in that type of environment. So without the informed consent, you're already starting off on a bad note. And of course, that is exactly the opposite of what most agencies are wanting to do. That's it for now. Thanks for listening.